Oh, Hare Krishna. Looks like we're live. Um, didn't realize we'd come on live, but that's absolutely fine. Good morning, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We are going to continue our introduction to Bhagavad Gita. Jai Das here, all the way from Toto down near the Coromandel, just at the, yeah, on the way to Thames. So I'm up here in my vehicle, as you may know or not know, and we will begin with a very short, I know it's most likely, don't want it too long, so just a little short kirtan is always nice. And then we're going to continue that introduction to Bhagavad Gita. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamira Vanachari Jaya Rama Tava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupada Paramahans Paribracharya Astottara Sati Shri Srimat. His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Gaura Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sari Gaura Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. C.C. Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Mathura Brindavan Dham Ki Navadvip Maya Ki Ganga Jamuna Maya Ki Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we will open. Atmananda Prabhu is speaking last, and he completed. So I'm going to, it seems to be my habit not to repeat, but just to see where we're coming from as we go forward. So it's a short paragraph. We'll read that and then we'll go into today's continuation. So this is from yesterday. How Krishna is acting in different potencies is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. This phenomenal world or material world in which we are placed is also complete in itself because the 20 just immediately comes to mind. We are placed in this. So it gives us a sense that we don't belong here. We're placed here, but if we analyze, we see pretty quickly that we actually don't belong here because we can only hang around for a lifetime, which is not that long. Lord Brahma's lifetime is pretty long. An ant's lifetime, not very long. An Indragopa, a very tiny little, is practically a moment or a few moments. And we as human beings in this age, we live for 80 or 60 or 100 years at most. So it's not long. We're placed here. So we are placed. The phenomenal world or material world in which we are placed is also complete in itself, because the 24 elements of which this material universe is a temporary manifestation, according to Sankhya philosophy, are completely adjusted to produce complete resources which are necessary for the maintenance and substance of this universe. There is nothing extraneous, nor is there anything needed or wanting. This manifestation has its own time fixed by the energy of the Supreme Whole, and when its time is complete, these temporary manifestations will be annihilated by the complete arrangement of the complete. There is complete facility for the small complete units, namely the living entities, to realize the complete. All sorts of incompletes are experienced due to incomplete knowledge. This is such an important, the whole thing is so important. That all sorts of incompleteness, got the sense of something's not quite right in the material world. We can't live forever, we can't be blissful, and we don't know what's up and what's down half the time, or most of the time, in fact, all of the time. All sorts of incompleteness are experienced. Now, all this is experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete. So we haven't understood. We don't know what the plot is. We've lost the plot a long time back, and we need to regain this knowledge, sambandha gyan, knowledge of our eternal relationship with the complete whole. The complete whole is the personality of Godhead, who is manifest as Paramatma. He is manifest as Brahman and also as Bhagavan. So this is the complete. So Bhagavad Gita contains the complete knowledge of Vedic wisdom. And everything is coming from the Vedas, the Vedic knowledge spoken by the personality of Godhead. So continuing on then, so this is the context from where we're beginning. All Vedic knowledge is infallible, and Hindus accept Vedic knowledge to be complete and infallible. Now it's interesting, Prabhupada uses very seldom the word Hindus, but he's trying to utilize that in one sense, that there's a massive amount of people, millions and millions and millions of people accept this Vedic knowledge. The Hindu appears maybe around I think it's around 3,500 years ago. But if you look at the Vedic literature, there's no such thing as Hindu. The word Hindu is a derivation from the original word of Indus. Those people living in the Indus region, the Indus Valley in India, were known as the Indus, and gradually it was pronounced. Prabhupada mentions, I think he mentions that is the. Anyway, I won't. Yeah, it's become Hindus. So those persons that they accept Vedic knowledge to be complete and infallible. For example, continuing, Prabhupada saying, for example, cow dung is the stool of an animal, and according to Smriti or Vedic injunction, if one touches the stool of an animal, he has to take a bath to purify himself. But in the Vedic scriptures, cow dung is considered to be a purifying agent. And we know that when we install deities, we use cow dung, and for various purposes, the cow dung is also described as being the best medium for cooking, actually, cow dung. It's used to purify the temples and yagyas and so on. Everything from the cow is completely sacred. The urine can be used in so many different Vedic medicines. The cow dung can be used for fuel. It can be used to purify in so many ways. And Prabhupada mentions more about this. But in the Vedic scriptures, cow dung is considered to be a purifying agent. One might consider this to be contradictory, but it is accepted because it is Vedic injunction. And indeed, by accepting this, one will not commit a mistake. Subsequently, it has been proved by modern science that cow dung contains all antiseptic properties. To the point where you actually, I remember when we were living in India, if somebody had a cut and stuff, they'd put cow dung on it, and it would clear up in a few days. So Vedic knowledge is complete because it is above all doubts and mistakes. And Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. Wow. So here we introduces the idea of faith. Pardon me. To accept the Smriti or Vedic injunction that cow dung is always pure. So that requires some faith, but faith is something that is with us at every moment. It's not a very popular concept to have faith. We want scientific proof, and Prabhupada does mention that in that paragraph. He says, you know, the science is proven. It's not that we are dependent on this, but it helps from time to time. We see, oh, science is, the mind is somewhat satisfied. Or modern science accepts this truth to be true. But we're not dependent on that. It's not, oh, no, that modern science has accepted it to contain all antiseptic properties. We'll accept now that cow dung is pure. No, we will accept we are being trained to accept the smritis, the statements of Vedic literature, the Shruti and Smriti, which will guide us. And then if there seems to be some apparent contradiction, we do not reject the Vedic conclusion, but we accept it. And sooner or later, yes or no, science, modern science, by the deductive process, or should be inductive process, it may or may not substantiate which is there in the Vedas. But we're finding so many things, just like that other the bridge to Lanka, to across the ocean from India to Ceylon. At that time, it was known as Ceylon. Lanka is the original. So it seems like a mythology. I was reading a BTG article about some of that recently, and it seems like a mythology, floating big rocks across the ocean, and it's not possible to find the laws of nature, the laws of gravity. But then we find that there are quote unquote scientific research which reveals, and photography which reveals, that there has been at some time a bridge going across there. It's very substantial evidence. So this idea of faith is there at every moment, and the great atheists that will present that, oh, I don't believe in God, I have no faith in these ancient tribal concepts. We don't have faith, but we have to challenge and say, well, actually, you do have faith. You have faith. You have a, it's where we place that faith is the question. So people say, I don't have faith, but you do have faith. You have faith in your own speculative concepts. You have faith that by not accepting God, you'll be happier. That's you have that faith that if I just absorb myself in what I can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear, and live my life in this way, that will make me happier than living a restricted life of faith in archaic concepts of God and so on and so forth. So that's your faith. You have that faith. You don't have faith faith to follow the, as Bhagavatam says, follow the regulate principles of freedom. By following certain strictures, you enter to a higher level. Just like, just some example comes to mind. If you want to achieve something in this world, you have to perform some tapasya. People go to university, they study hard. They don't go out partying all the time because they want to achieve something higher. Therefore, they perform some voluntary tapasya. Austerity is performed to gain a higher thing. A person runs and trains and does their regime of whatever sport or activity they're engaged in to achieve something. So you don't achieve a lot by just sitting around being lazy. uh, so we see the modes of nature are there, and that is discussed in Bhagavad Gita also. That the faith of different personalities is faith in the mode of ignorance, faith in the mode of passion, and faith in the mode of goodness, and then transcendental faith. So Bhagavad Gita, pardon me, is instructing us in all these different aspects of faith and action and food and ways of living in the different modes of nature to gradually elevate us. So in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, in second chapter, Krishna, I think it's 245, Krishna says, Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtrigunya Bhavarjana Tedvan Mukta. Let's see if we can find it very quickly. I think it's 245. Let's see. 243. Is it? Yes. Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtrigunya Bhavarjuna Nirvanvo Nityasat Pashto Niryoga Shema Atmavan. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Wow. Wow, the Vedas are talking about the three modes of material nature. But then Krishna introduces transcendence. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Why? Because Krishna doesn't. Because these modes bind you to the material existence, whether it's goodness, even. You want to elevation to higher realms of existence, you can do that in the material world, but you will have to again repeatedly take birth and death. So Krishna is advising Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. We were talking yesterday, Amiyatma Prabhu. Don't know if any of you know Amiyatma Prabhu. He's a Kiwi personality, devotee. He lives in Perth and he's been in New Zealand, can't get back to Perth due to the lockdown situations and stuff. He's heading back there. So he visited the farm with Dayavir yesterday, one or two other devotees. Pardon me. And we were talking, and we were talking, and we mentioned that Srila Prabhupada in Brindavan in 1972, November 9th, was I like very much a statement that Prabhupada made there. He said, everyone is struggling to gain something which he does not possess, and he is lamenting for something that he has lost. But when he himself realizes that there is nothing to gain and there is nothing to lose, that I have nothing to do with this material world, that is Brahman realization. That is Brahmabhuta. So Prabhupada's statement there relates to this, that to be free from all dualities, hankering and lamenting, hankering to gain something that we don't have, and lamenting for something that we had but we've now lost, or to be fearful for anxieties for gain and safety, to be wanting to gain something and to feel safe. I might lose this. But when we realize that we have nothing to do with this material world at all and become established in the self. So this is what Krishna is advising to Arjuna, to rise above. So that's the key aspect of Krishna consciousness. It is not a perfunctory type of religion, a conventional religion that God, give me this, please give me that, please give me, give me, give me, give me, give me, that He's our order supplier. No, the Krishna consciousness movement is introducing a total transformation of human society where we look at transcendence, how to go beyond the desires for things in this material world, whether it's through passion, whether it's through ignorance, or even mode of goodness. So that is what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. Arjuna, you are lamenting for that which is not worthy of grief. The wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. You are not supposed to be attached to this worldly happiness and distress. You're considering these persons to be your family members, and how will you enjoy your kingdom if they're all killed in this battle? So these are reasonable considerations, but they're within the modes of material nature. And it means if you function in that way, you will not be ultimately executing my order, and you will be subject to the karmic reactions in different pious and impious acts. That is the way of the material existence. Let's read Prabhupada's purport. It's a short purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is Brahma Jignasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. Mamaivam sajiva bhutana sanatana, manasastani indriyani prakriti stani karshati. The living entities in this material world are my eternal fragmental parts, and due to conditioned life, they find themselves struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. Oh, the mind. Chained by the shackles of the mind. This is our struggle. We have the six senses, which includes the mind. They're struggling very hard. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live, which is so important, how to live in this world, and get rid of the material entanglement, in my words, at the same time. So how to live, we'll read that again. For them, the conditioned souls, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and to get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities continue, Prabhupada's purport, when the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas, as the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. The Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. So Bhagavad Gita is called the Gita Upanishad. So the Upanishads basically means the parts of the four Vedas. Originally there's one Veda, and it's divided by Vyasa into four and given to different disciples to help manifest the Vedas in a way that the people of the coming ages would be able to understand and appreciate. So small parts or portions of those Vedic literatures are called the Upanishads. Those are those verses which introduce the concept of transcendence. So rather than dealing with the modes of material natures and different rituals and prescribed duties to be performed, which are absolutely fine, how to live in this world, the Upanishads start to give us information, Tato Brahma Jignasa, knowledge of transcendence. Pardon me. Okay. Continuing that last part of this purport of 245. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. Don't know if you've noticed that. Uh, as we live in the world, I was thinking as I was coming up to give class yesterday, I was doing some lawn mowing and some weed eating and some painting and then talking to devotees, then different considerations about land across the road for sale. And could this person maybe, oh, they want to get it, but not got enough money, but they need someone to help work with them, and maybe they could buy it together, and so on and so forth. And the head reels. I don't know about you, but maybe I do know about you. We all have the stuff of the world, whether it's our children, whether it's their education. Is there enough money? Is there some security? Is there any employment? Is there any education? It just goes on and on and on and on. So this is why Nityam Bhagavata Seva. This is why we have to drag ourselves to hear, and that is the greatest glory of the speaker and those who are listening. That somehow or other we drag ourselves. You've so many other things you could do. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekiha kuranandana bahu shakayanantascha buddhayo vyavasayana. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. The intelligence of those who are irresolute is bahushaka, or many branched, many branched. So many other things that can capture our attention. And it's only by the mercy of Krishna in the form of his pure devotees, Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, and those who are working so hard to please Prabhupada in so many ways. By their mercy, we gain this idea that we are not meant for this stuff of the material world, whether it's goodness, passion, and ignorance, whatever shape and form it may take. This is all superfluous. Anarto Pashamam Shakshad Bhakti Yoga Adhoksaje. The miseries of living entity, which we are struggling to adjust and overcome, are superfluous to the living entity. That's the message of the Bhagavatam's statement. It says that Anato Pashamam Shakshad Bhakti Yoga Adhoksaje. Those miseries can be directly mitigated only by this process of devotional service, of Bhakti Yoga, linking with, once again, reconnecting to the original personality of Godhead, who is the reservoir of all pleasure, of all beauty, of all wisdom, of all goodness, of everything. That is the connection that we become disconnected, we've unplugged, and we're thinking we can plug in directly to the material energy in our own little independent way. But it's not possible. We can't do it. We are so tiny. So Prabhupada's saying, as long as the material body exists, and Srila Prabhupada echoed those statements of Krishna. He said, I have not come to say anything personally, but I'm simply presenting what Krishna is presenting. So Prabhupada would say, as long as the material body is there, then there will be material desires and actions and so on and so forth. But Krishna is a lovely verse. Krishna says, Apuryamana machala pratishtam Apuryamana machala pratishtam samudramapa pravashanti advat tadvat kanam pravashanti sarvesha shantam abnoti na kama kama. The person who is not disturbed by desires that, I'll try to stay with that verse. Person who's not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers, which are ever flowing and entering into the sea. Not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. Person is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which has ever been filled but always remains still, can alone achieve peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. So as long as there's a material body existing, there are actions and reactions in the material mode. So it's back to what I was saying earlier. Every day we have so many things come at us. One day we're happy, one day we're sad, for a minute here and an hour there. This is the way it goes. And matra sparshas takuntaya sitoshna sukha dukkha. We hear something nice. Oh, you're a very sweet and nice person. Oh, we're happy. And in this way, we perceive through sense perception. But it comes and it goes. So one has to learn tolerance in the face, Prabhupada speaking, in the face of dualities such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth, and by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. Wow. So this is our life's work, is to gradually, as quickly as possible. Sesha Prabhu, my god brother, um, we discussed this very interesting thing. When you're asked to do something gradually, but at the same time as quickly as possible. So it's with all deliberate speed. He quoted something from, he's a solicitor, barrister, not barrister, solicitor, or whatever they call it, a lawyer, they call it in America, solicitor here in the West, here in New Zealand and Britain and so on and so forth. And so we were talking, especially, we were talking of the regulative principle of no illicit sex, and one has to come to highest standard of that. But that may take some time. So what to do? Or just take it gradually. But that seems to not be what Krishna is saying. Um, just take it easy. But then so you should should come to that platform as quickly as possible. So naturally, we want to come to the highest platform as quickly as possible. But we hear that it's a gradual process. We've been here for millions of years. So this is the discussion we had at Session Prabhu. So the terminology is that in the court system, when it is wanted that someone do something, but they may not have the power fully to do it immediately. So how to with all deliberate speed. So that is the idea that this confirmed. I'll take it as being confirmed. The calves are saying something. With all with all deliberate speed, we want to come to this platform where we're no longer absorbed in all the dualities of our existential position in this material world, a life situation. Whether we're a woman, whether we're a man, whether we're young, whether we're old, there's so many things. When you get old, you get distracted by so many invalidities. That's the big distraction. Well, that's one of the big distractions. You still got all the other things going on. So, with all deliberate speed, we have to do that. So that is why I think I got distracted by that last moo. The cows are just in the paddock over here. They're very sweet because they're quite young as well. They're only little calves, and they're getting a nibble to eat. Okay, so where was I before I drifted off? I was distracted. Just trying to get here. Back to Srila Prabhupada's introduction statement. We were talking about cow dung, basically. So Vedic knowledge is complete because it's above all doubts. We're talking about faith and mistakes. But it is above all doubts and mistakes. And Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. So we accept that, but with faith, and we execute the activities, and that gradual process is there. Many verses describe that process, that gradually one advances on the path of liberation in the association, in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the wonderful activities and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By the cultivation of such knowledge, one gradually advances on the path of liberation. Thereafter, one's faith becomes fixed, and then one's then real devotion and devotional service begin. So this is the uh, desire of the aspiring devotee to come to this platform, and by hearing properly, by hearing regularly, in so many verses we see this satatam kirtayanto mam, always chanting my glories. Manmanabhava madbhakto madjaji mam mad namaskaru mami vaishase sachinte pritijani. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring always, so it says always, tivrena bhakti yogena, with intense devotional service. There's so many words everywhere that give us this information. There's another word, but it gives us this idea that it has to be all the time. And gradually we can come to that point. And that's why there's a Vedic system, as I've said to many devotees over the years, that um, trying to live simply appears to be one of the most difficult things to do at the age I'm at. To get things established requires, as I was saying earlier, you have to be painting and weed eating and mowing and building and fixing and trying to dig, and you're doing all these things. Um, Hopefully, we attempt to be we're trying to transcend what's expected. The not the varnashram system would be to retire and sit down, but by Krishna's grace we have that opportunity too. So I suppose it's just the ongoing balance of one's life, whatever stage and whatever position we find ourselves in. He who eats too much or eats too little, who sleeps too much or sleeps too little. Krishna's always talking about how to balance. So if we simply dig holes and plant trees and do this stuff, but we're not hearing properly and not chanting properly and so on and so forth, the process of devotional service will be imbalanced. And if we artificially try to sit down and just hear and chant, then that is also, one has to feel that one is actually at that place or platform or stage of devotional service where one is fully satisfied. So that balance has to be there. Uh, and that's the goal. That's what would you say, the challenge of life as a devotee, to know. And and again, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. How do we understand then? And that's the great challenge for us all. How do I understand? We understand by hearing from Guru, associating with sadhus to confirm what Guru is saying and what Shastra has spoken. Oh, I've read this, and this is my understanding. What do you think? My Guru said this. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. But and we talk with other devotees. Oh, but maybe when your Guru said that, did you take it to mean this? Maybe, yeah. So, oh yeah, now I'm seeing slightly differently. That helps me what you're saying, Sadhu, because my Guru said that. Oh no, I can now. Or maybe I should go back to my Guru, because that is a very important point. Not that you doubt your Guru, not like that. Not that you doubt the Shastra. No, but that is the instruction of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, that we utilize those three aspects of devotional service to make progress gradually on the path. And the amazing thing that Krishna says is that when he sees that we are sincerely endeavoring in that way, that great ocean of the material existence is reduced down to the water contained in the hoof print of a calf, and it can easily be crossed beyond. That's the only way, by Krishna's mercy ultimately, not by our great erudite learning, not by our great chanting and kirtan or whatever great we may think, but our humble endeavor pardon me, to do whatever we can to keep practicing and continuing on this path. When Krishna sees that, Tesam Satata Yukta, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. I reveal myself to my devotees when I am pleased with them, with their transcendental loving service. That is the prerogative of Krishna, to reveal himself, revelation. I was mentioning the other day, there was Srila Prabhupada, one person with speaking to him, and he said about, I think I've mentioned this before, but Prabhupada was very animated that St. Paul, when he was told that St. Paul was traveling somewhere, he was a tax collector in the biblical stories, and he was going, and he had a revelation that God appeared to him, and he basically fell right off his horse onto the ground. It was such a revelation. And then Prabhupada was very inspired by it. He said, "Yes, this is the system. God revealed." Now uh, we don't expect God to just appear in front of us, Shamasundar playing his flute, or Lord Narasinghadev to chase away the demons that have come to harass us, or whatever. It doesn't mean that. But in this instance, there was a very powerful revelation in that way. And if we check our own literatures, we see God manifest at different yajnas are performed. Krishna appears in the form of Lord Vishnu, and he appears in his transcendental threefold bending form also in so many other pastimes and activities. But Krishna reveals himself to us in different ways. And that's why we continue in devotional service. Gosh, it opens up that sometimes, oh, well, Krishna's never revealed himself to me. Not true. He has. Maybe not in a dramatic way, but if don't forget that when you first walked into the temple, the difference it made. When you smelled that incense, it somehow captivated you. Or when you tasted that prasadam, it was different. It was different. And it wasn't different just because it tasted a little different. It was a different experience. And when I heard those words from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, what the difference it made, I changed my whole life. These are revelations of Krishna's mercy. Uh, and when I saw the deities, and when I shed a tear one time when something happened, and when all these things, these different interactions. Otherwise, how can you keep going for 10, 20, 30, 50, 80, whatever number of years in your whole life? There has to be a taste. Visayavani vartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. There must be a taste. So we get a taste, and we hanker for that taste, and we should be arranging our lives, adjusting it, balancing in a way so that we can get a taste, that higher taste, so that we can no longer, just like when we say to a child, oh, don't play there in the gutter and the dirt, it's dirty and you might get a disease. The child's going to cry, Mom, I'm playing here. Wherever I'm playing, I'm getting a taste. This is fun. But if the mother very cleverly brings a little plate of cookies or a big cake or something and says, come on, it's time for a snack or time for whatever it is, the child instantly will drop the lower taste. It wasn't that much fun. It was kind of, but not much compared to what's on offer. So that's devotional life. There is the taste. It's there. We have to get it, keep it, and keep humbly milking that taste of devotional service, which is there in every word. And you see Srila Prabhupada in this introduction, he's tasting Krishna consciousness, and he wants to distribute it, to give it to everyone. This is real life. This is how to live. Mode of goodness, life, and then transcendental goodness, Sudasattva, and going further and further and more until we become Mahatmas, great souls, instead of Duratma, cripple-minded materialists grasping for struggling for some personal advantage somehow or other in this world, to becoming Mahatmas, wanting to give to everyone the greatest gift of Krishna consciousness, and living that Krishna conscious life, such a broad vision of life instead of a miserly vision of 50, 80 years of struggling for some personal temporary advantage, which is destined to be cut down in due course of time. Marchaloka, this is the planet that we live on. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Purna Avartanar. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all the places of misery wherein repeating birth and death take place. But one who attains to my supreme abode, he never takes birth again. Okay, so I'm going to finish at that point. I always forget about these little buttons and stuff. If anyone has any reflections, I think last week when I spoke, I was too quick. It's Prana Prabhu, who was our headmaster of the school, quite a number of years ago. I hope Prabhu's doing well. I heard he had some problems again. He had a good period, but I have to get in touch and just check out how he's going. Pardon me. But he was saying that a teacher asks for questions and then he has to wait for a while. No, that I'm just speaking here a little bit, not too much of a teacher per se, but one should wait for a while. But again, I can't. I'm looking here. Or maybe it's that one. Gosh, I pressed the wrong one. I'll just see if there's any. If anyone has any reflection, please feel free that they can reflect anything that's been said. I can't even read what that, but it's all so small in a little phone. So keep that in mind. We'll try. Oh, there's something there. Yeah, there is. I'm just seeing. Oh, gosh. There's a little red button on that part. But it's, when I'm pressing, I'm just trying to get closer so I can see what it's. Okay, so we've given a fair bit of time, although there's a little red on there, but I can't get it to activate somehow or other. There's something. Wow, there's so many little possibilities. I'm pressing it, but it's not happening. I can press that, see if that happens. Okay. So if anybody else out there is more tech savvy than me, which is most likely all of you, then please feel free anytime in the future for classes to make a comment and somehow try and get it up there if it's possible. Yeah, I'm not doing well. Okay. So until we meet again, may Krishna bless us with the most important blessing, which is Krishna consciousness, that we're able to remember him in all circumstances and chant his glories internally and externally. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Lord Premanandi. Hari Hari.